Hey everybody, welcome to Britpop's React. You're me, BP1 and BP2.
Just adjusting myself.
Just adjusting himself, hopefully above the waistline.
Indeed.
Otherwise that would be a bit wrong. We're here with a reaction today talking about, to be fair, it's this girl gone London. And she's saying why I feel more free in Britain than America. She's American, living in London, and why she feels more free in Britain than America. So that made us think, this is got, this would be good to know, because obviously we know our Brit-ishness and how we are, running our lives in the UK. So how does an American feel doing that? And I thought it'd be interesting from Americans' point of view what they think about her, what she says against back in her home country. So we do these American British type videos, which we find really interesting for cultural purposes. Good, mate.
All right, I mean, we'll go along. We'll see if we agree with her comments and views, and see what observations that she's made coming over that we maybe just take for granted, really, isn't it? Because we don't really know.
Very we don't know any different. Yeah, absolutely. It's not until you lived it that you can really sort of say about it. All right, let's get into it.
In the UK, I can cross the road wherever I want to cross the road. I can look to see if there's traffic with my own eyes, and I can just decide to walk across that road with no fear of a fine or a ticket or getting in trouble. Which sounds more free to you? Hi and welcome back to the Girl Gone London channel. Today I am discussing all the ways in which I feel more free in the UK than in the USA. And this is a funny topic, I suppose, because America associates itself with freedom and the fact that Americans are free. But I was thinking about whether I would want to move back to America, and it has changed at various points in my life here in the UK. If you don't know, I am a dual UK and US citizen, so technically I could live in either country, and I have chosen for multiple reasons, but some of these in this video to be in the UK. When I think about moving to America, there are some things that come up that I'm not entirely sure I could deal with, and that made me realize that actually my life here in the UK seems more free than it would be in the USA. So let's get started.
Interesting.
Number one, and this is probably the biggest way in which I feel I have more freedom here in the UK, has to do with healthcare. Now, the reason I was thinking about this is not just the fact that I can go to the doctor here and not pay anything, or have a surgery and not pay anything. It's also to do with the fact that I am self-employed. And so if you're self-employed in a place like the UK that has a nationalized healthcare system, it means that you don't have to factor this in to your job, or what it means if you lose a job or gain a job or anything like that. And if you're British, you're probably a little bit confused if you're not familiar with how it works in the US. So in the US, having health insurance is essentially mandatory to be able to go to the doctor, to get surgeries, like to get help. If you don't have anything at all, technically you can still get emergency help, but it's a whole big thing. So in general, you need health insurance. Typically, health insurance is going to be attached to a job, but it's going to be attached to a salaried job, and it's considered part of the perks of the job. So people in the US who are self-employed or freelancers or not in a traditional 9-to-5 salaried position still need health insurance, but it doesn't come with your job as a perk. So you then have to source that health insurance for yourself, pay the monthly fees, which can be extortionate. So we're not talking like $50 a month here. We're talking at least in the multiple hundreds per month in order to have health insurance in case you have any sort of medical need. So if I were to move to the US right now, I would feel a lot less free financially because I would have to be paying, again, extortionate amounts for health insurance every month. And I might not even have the freedom to be self-employed in the US because of how much extra that adds on per month and per year to your costs. And again, after you have the health insurance in America, you still often have what we call a copay, which is the money you still need to pay towards the doctor's appointment or towards the surgery or towards the hospital visit or whatever it is. So
copay, is that like our, we have to pay £100 up front? What do we call it? Excess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, on your car insurance.
Not a doctor's, no. We're very lucky.
No. I mean, that is one thing that does sort of, boggle my mind, that a country that's supposed to be sort of the leading sort of first world country just doesn't have healthcare, and if you haven't got it, you're not getting it, kind of thing. Whereas we can just rock up any time of the day or night, A&E or whatever, and you'll get seen and you'll get treated, and you don't receive a bill at the end of it.
Yeah, this is true, but we have got other issues with it.
We have, because obviously people take advantage of it, like dual citizen people or non-citizen people. But it's creaking and groaning. But you got a long waiting list. But by the time you get to the end of the waiting list, you're still getting it for free.
I mean, if you could wait, you're getting it for free. We obviously got private medical healthcare in the UK, which is obviously, I guess, very similar. But
the thing is, if you can't afford it, you're going to get treated one way or another.
You are. Yeah. Well, I agree with her on that. I think it's probably one of the best things our country's got, and we need to protect it. But there is, I just get fed up with the amount of people now that
fly in, get treated,
that are coming in. They're not even going back out, are they? Some of them.
Yeah. Well, the ones that go back out are even worse, aren't they? Because they're double taking advantage of it. They're not even from here. But like she said, it does factor in whether you can work for yourself, because if you do and you're ill and you need to pay for that, that's got to come from somewhere. So stopping people being sort of entrepreneurial, starting up their own small business, if you can't afford to stay healthy, then that's a big factor. So got that.
Yeah. One. She's probably saying with wages as well, wages being higher in the US, if you're part of a company, can probably swallow that a bit more, whereas if you're self-employed and the goods that you're selling in the US and the goods that you're selling in the UK similar prices, or then it's not, the overheads are the same or similar, therefore
correct,
pay nothing, pay more. All right, let's keep going.
So let's say that your insurance does cover your doctor. You might still have a $50 copay, which means that you still need to pay out of pocket $50 every time you have a doctor's appointment. And yes, the insurance will cover the rest, but you're still paying out of pocket. Here in the UK, if I have any sort of issue that I need to see a doctor for, I don't worry about budgeting for it. I'm just able to go. And in that way, I think that I get much better healthcare here in the UK because I'm not worried about the financial aspect of it. I don't second guess whether I really need to be seen or can just fix myself on WebMD, because it doesn't cost me money at the point of interaction here in the UK. Yes, you pay through it through your taxes, you pay through it in other ways. Everybody always says the NHS isn't free. It's not free overall, but it is free to each individual at the point of interaction. So it's much different to the American system, which is not free at any point, and even if you have health insurance, you are often still paying out of pocket. The next thing on my list, and this is much more trivial, but it does have to do with the public access to land here in the UK. Watch my countryside video that I posted recently if you haven't seen that, where I talk about the public access to footpaths here in the UK, meaning that you can essentially roam or walk through privately owned land a lot of times because you have right of way as the public on a footpath. In America, it is not like this at all. Private land is basically private land, and you can go to, of course, a park or a national park or something like that, but you can't usually just leave your house or pick a particular spot and keep wandering for a long time. It's a much more private system that has no public access or right of way in that sense. So I feel like I can move a little bit more freely in the UK when it comes to walking. And also, my third reason that I feel more free in the UK than in the USA is public transportation. So America, for the most part, is run on cars. Now, a lot of the UK is also run on cars. If you go to Cornwall, you're probably going to want a car. There are buses, but a car is going to get you places much faster. However, The vast majority of the UK is really well connected by trains, by buses, and by other forms of transportation than a car. So it means here I have more options. Maybe I still do want to take a car into the countryside, but if I didn't have one, I could check out the local buses. I could check out the trains. The train system in the UK can get you very, very far and to tons of different places. As you saw in my Great Missenden video the other day, I can go to this countryside feeling village 40 minutes on the train from London, no car necessary. The next thing on my list, and this doesn't really...
Yeah, we'll stop on that because that is a really good point. I mean, the train system here in the UK, although it has delays, it can get you anywhere. You know, if I want to come down to you, I might take 3 trains, but I can get down to you. If I want to go into London, easy, I can get a train for literally anywhere.
And
I can get
very
somewhere.
remote places, isn't there? Sometimes
some
you
really
the train
remote.
stopping here and you're going, but you know, there's a reason for it. And that the only thing we would say is, compared to other sort of European countries, we are quite expensive. Our rail system, Germany and that, they've got it much better. But if you want to get somewhere, you can do it on public transport. And the other thing on the public access way, public bridleways as well, so you can sort of ride your horse.
Bridleways. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, bridleways and stuff like that. So that's cool. Okay.
So in the US with trains, is it literally just because of distance?
I think so, and just that they don't stop. They don't tend to stop at tiny little villages and things like that you want to stop off and see. So even then, you got to get somewhere and come back. Bus system again, probably just the sheer size of it.
Metro
it's
just too long, isn't it?
That sort of thing,
far. Yeah, fair play. All right.
Greyhound coaches, I guess. All right.
They apply to me because I don't really drink, but if we're putting this list together for your average American versus British life, in the UK, the drinking age is 18. Whereas in America, it is 21. So in that way, the UK seems more free and at an earlier age. The next thing on my list, again, has to do with my employment. And this really, as I've mentioned, is what has gotten me thinking about this subject. And this is to do with employment rights and paid leave. So when you talk about freedom, in the UK, if I were to work a traditional 9-to-5 salaried position, I would be guaranteed by the government 28 paid days of annual leave per year. In the US, if I were in the same exact position, a salaried 9-to-5 job, there are no federal government requirements for how many days I could have off. That again is seen as like a perk of the job. So you hope to pick a job that offers you enough leave or enough days off, or vacation days as we call it in America, but there is no federal mandate for how many days this has to be. It could be 0. And even when you do tend to get vacation days included in your job in America, it usually is much less than in the UK, which is why in the UK and in Europe, actually, people tend to think of like the summer holidays or the winter holidays or whatever it is, as people can take multiple week trips sometimes. But in my experience, Americans almost never have that 28 days off per year, or even more in some other European countries. They're going to have fewer days. And so their trips need to be a bit shorter, maybe 5 days, maybe 7 days at a max. Taking a like 2 or 3 week trip, as people can often do in the UK or in Europe, is definitely not something that happens that much. So I think to myself, if I were to move back to America tomorrow, maybe let's say I'm not self-employed anymore and I do work a traditional 9-to-5 job, I would feel in that way less free than I have felt in the jobs that I've worked here in the UK. And that would be a huge and hard adjustment to make. The next thing on my list is
as we know ourselves, the thing is, and when they do get those days off, the Americans don't tend to take them as we do they? Either, they sort of tend not to take holiday as much as the European countries. For us, it's always like summer's coming, I'm going to book at least minimum 2 week holiday, isn't it? And off you go. And
normally 2 weeks.
Your company will suck it up, won't they? And then you've got all your sort of individual days in between your bank holidays and things like that. So, you chuck on a cheeky little Friday on a bank holiday, you get sort of 4 days for the price of one.
That's right. Yeah, you can do that. especially over Easter holidays. You know, if you've got like a Monday and a Friday, take 4 days and you get 9 days off. You know, so it's quite useful, isn't it? But yeah, I get what she's saying there. You know, because obviously we do work with Americans in our day jobs, and we've seen that firsthand, haven't we? Around you know, what gets taken and how often. So, all right. Let's keep going.
The lower higher education fees here in the UK, which I can personally attest to because I did do my full master's degree here in the UK, so I know how much it costs here, even as an international student, versus how much doing a master's degree would cost in the USA. I've mentioned this in my video about things that are cheaper in the UK than in the USA, but higher education is definitely one of those. So when you compare the costs here in the UK to the $50,000, $60,000 per year cost for some universities in the US.
Wow.
I mean, which one seems more doable to you? Which one seems like that country has more freedom? I don't know. There's a lot of good things about America, but the more I make this list, I'm like,
cheaper up there.
There's a lot of ways in which there is so much more freedom here in the UK that maybe people don't realize. And of course, the most obvious one I have left it to this point on the list has to do with firearms. So yes, there is crime in the UK. Yes, there is an increase in different types of crimes in different cities. It's nothing compared to how you feel in America at all times, knowing that firearms are allowed to be held by your average citizen. And what I will say is that when you live in America for long periods of time or you grow up there, this is a fact of life you have to get used to. So do you necessarily go around fearing this all of the time? Not necessarily, because you do have to become kind of immune to that fear in order to live your life. But now that I've lived in the UK and I can go to the movie theater, I can go to the mall, I can go to a restaurant without fearing some sort of gun violence incident. When I go back to the US now, I am very aware. So if I go to like a crowded movie theater or a crowded mall, I do look around and I think of what could potentially happen. And this wasn't a way that I thought when I lived in America, as I said, so you do have to become immune to it a little bit. But now that I've experienced a place where that fear is not always present, it doesn't make sense to me to go back to that fear, and it doesn't make me feel more free to think of a life in America where I would have to be, or feel like I would have to second guess the places I would go and how crowded they are and who might have access to them. And
that's again, you know, we don't have that, and living here, that's how I grow up. I grow up knowing that nobody's got a gun, and anywhere I've travelled in Europe, I know that nobody's walking around with a gun. It's not just UK, but having not been to America, I mean, you've recently come back from America. Did that play on your mind? There's people walking around with guns in their pockets?
No, not really. But you just sort of do sit there and think, I wonder who is, because here it wouldn't be the thing, but there, it's kind of sat next to the wallet. You put your wallet in your pocket and you put your gun on your hip, kind of thing. So, as you say, you just think if something did kick off here, I'm the one without anything, that's the bit. That's
it.
That's the worrying bit.
It's all of that. You either all have it or you don't, because otherwise, then you're bringing in.
Have you got a gun, sir? Anything to declare? Have you got a gun? No. Here you go. Take that one.
Yeah.
Hand it back in on the way home.
On the way home, yeah.
I mean, let's not pretend. There are knife crimes, there are gun crimes in and around specific areas in the UK, but where most of us sort of live and do our daily lives, it's not a regular occurrence, no.
And that's probably why we find that difficult as people, as British people, because the only people that we ever see with guns, or is criminals.
Yeah.
End of. Obviously, you got the army and the police and stuff like that, but outside of that, the only people with guns are criminals. That have got that are walking around that,
then you're probably carrying one as well. So
But so we look at was the average person in the US is just walking around with a gun in the pocket for protection. It's fine.
Yeah.
But we can't get that around our head because that would be a criminal if you were walking around it. And that's, just whatever.
Don't feel the need, don't feel the need or that. But okay, fair play.
That's a good point.
And to counter that, another trivial one is jaywalking. So in America, there are lots of laws in different states that you cannot simply cross the road wherever you would like to cross the road. By law, you have to cross the road at a dedicated crossing. And if you don't, you could run the risk of getting yourself a ticket or some sort of fine. You're likely not going to be put in jail for jaywalking, but it's still something that is codified as not legal. So again, you're looking at some sort of punishment or at least a slap on the wrist from a police officer. In the UK, I can cross the road wherever I want to cross the road. I can look to see if there's traffic with my own eyes, and I can just decide to walk across that road with no fear of a fine or a ticket or getting in trouble. Which sounds more free to you? And finally, the last thing on my list, and this is an interesting one. We might do a religion in the UK versus the USA video at some point in time. But it's a little bit of a nuanced topic because we'll take England as an example. England has an official religion, the Church of England. America doesn't have an official religion. However, Americans tend to be more religious. So again, there's layers to this topic. However, when it comes to people in power, in the UK, I feel like there is much more of a freedom of becoming somebody in power, whether that's at a more local level or a national level, regardless of your religion. The current leader of the Labour Party who are in power is an atheist. Rishi Sunak is a Hindu. It doesn't necessarily play into people's minds what somebody's personal, private religious beliefs are when it comes to their ability to lead. You might have problems with people based on a number of other reasons, but typically religion, again, is seen as private, and in some ways that gives more freedom for people of all different religions to achieve lots of different things and hold this position of power. In America, it can tend to be more difficult for someone to be in a position of power without being a part of the majority religion, which is Christianity. So it doesn't always come into play. I'm not saying that it's never happened. People do have different religious beliefs and have held office, but people do think about it more. They do question it more. And there has currently been no president that has declared themselves as an atheist or not having a religion. And to me, that would seem like something that would not be possible right now in America. Okay, that brings me to the end of this video. There are lots of positive things.
Yeah, I mean, let's just watch out.
About America, I do miss it. I do miss things about it, but I was thinking about what I would have to give up in order to move back there, and it's definitely not something that I would currently want to do for all the reasons listed. As always, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Okay. Yeah, good video. I enjoyed that because it's sort of like from an actual American's perspective of living in this country.
Yep. Things that we take for granted.
Yeah. And we look at America bigger, better, brighter. And I'm not saying it's not, but it's interesting how she sort of played on the free, why she feels more free in Britain.
Yeah.
And then as a Brit, thinking, yeah, you're right. I cross the road wherever I want, even if I'm in London. And I look and nothing's coming. I can cross the road, without thinking someone's got a fine or the person I'm crossing the road to's got a gun or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just sort of.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like I know, for example, Germany have jaywalking laws. Whether anybody imposes them or not, if you did it in front of a police car, you'd probably get pulled up. But otherwise, and it's the same here. There's things there that you go on holiday and it's all fine and dandy. You got to go and live there. Then you got to take a lot of other things into consideration, haven't you? Like say healthcare, where you're going to live, gun crime, all that sort of thing. Here, you just got to worry about how many idiots live in your street.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a really good one. Let us know. I mean, how's that video for you, whether you're a Brit or whether you're American? How's that affected you, what you think? Because, mate, it does make you bright. Our little one cell is flying around that skull.
There's a lot of working overtime now.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Nicely done.
Good stuff. All right, there you go. Why that young lady feels more free in Britain than she does in America. Let us know in the comments. We'll be back tomorrow for another reaction. Until then, it's goodbye from you.
Goodbye from him. Bye-bye.
Bye.